Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're having a good day. I'm Rob, I'm a violin player. Gonna do some reaction videos for you. We've got a special guest, my buddy Chris. He's a piano player and a singer, and we've played together in the past in bands and stuff. So we're gonna listen to a little bit of Joni Mitchell, and you and I have talked a whole bunch in the past about Joni Mitchell. You know a heck of a lot more about her than I do, but she's obviously had her own career doing her own stuff, but tell some of these guys might not know some of the, a billion people that she's like background vocal for or whatever.
Yeah, Joni is many people's, number one singer-songwriter of the 70s. They just, if you ask Elton John who his favorite singer-songwriter is, it's Joni. If you ask Mick Jagger, he might say Joni. She just had a huge impact. She kind of did things her own way. She's from Canada. Mm-hmm. She was part of the so-called hippie movement. She hung out with Crosby, Stills, and Nash a lot. Dated Crosby and Nash both. Lived with Nash, but also dated Leonard Cohen and lots of other people. She was a big star, and it's funny about this tune, the boho dance. It kind of, was right up her alley because, even though she was kind of with the hippie crowd, she never lost her once in a while I want to wear an evening gown thing. And so she took some heat for that. Well, Joni, why are you wearing this Versace evening gown or whatever? I just made that up. Right. And so the boho dance kind of speaks to that. It's what they call a Tom Wolfism. He's a novelist, and he coined the term boho dance. All it means is you're living this bohemian lifestyle, as a suffering artist, and you kind of identify with it. Yeah. And so the rich people over there are like, I'm an artist. I'm living bohemian like. Yeah. And so Joni's in kind of halfway in both worlds at the same time. And a lot of females have this, that trouble. They're criticized for being a hippie chick, and then they're criticized when they put on an evening gown. They just don't know how to kind of navigate that whole "what are we supposed to do" kind of thing.
And they want to be able to do both, obviously, and choose whenever I feel like.
Yeah. And I know another, just to interrupt. And Joni also, for a while dated James Taylor. Yeah. So she's a big. We first heard her on James's albums, doing the background. We just thought that was the greatest art of all time. Yeah. Just her four notes was like touching our hearts, and it was, because Joni had a unique voice. But then she's also a painter, and you see the cover art here. That's her artwork.
Oh, is it? That's hers? Oh,
so,
I didn't know that.
She's painting is as important to her as music. But I look at her as a huge lyricist, but she also has her own language. She had her own tunings. She really got into the, she's kind of a self-taught type lady, even though she studied piano as a child. But, she's just very, I hate to use the term artsy, but she's just artsy to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. And it touched a whole generation. And I love these lyrics. They grab you by the throat at times. Mm-hmm. And, and she also, talks a lot about her inner songs is her life, too. So she's very open about what she's going through. Yeah, and so that really touched a chord in the 70s and 80s people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know we were talking about, we listened to Carolina on My Mind all the time at work, and so that was one of her big tunes off James's song that everybody's heard before that's her. Yeah. That they wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear his puppy.
Down in the cellar in the boho zone, I went looking for some sweet inspiration. Oh well, just another hard time band with Negro affectations. I was a hopeful in rooms like this when I was working cheap. It's an old romance, the boho dance. It hasn't gone to sleep. But even on the scuffle, the cleaner's press was in my jeans. And any eye for detail caught a little lace along the seams.
very unorthodox, like chords and timing and stuff.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's very unique what she, and that's her on piano, right?
Yeah, but she's working with LA's best jazz musicians.
Yeah, I'm sure,
and,
right? Yeah.
You know, she didn't even know what the one of a chord was. I mean, she had her own vocabulary, so they had to kind of like, okay, Joni really they had to scope it all out as jazz musicians can do. But she was just sort of oozing music. She had no theoretical of what, well, we need
super self-taught.
Super self-taught, but that means super creative. Yeah. And so these jazz musicians like Tom Scott, Larry Carlton, Joe Sample, John Guerin on drums, Victor Feldman on vibes, they're probably kind of like, okay, we got to kind of get this on a lead sheet,
Right, yeah.
And so there was probably, and then by this time she's sort of into jazz, and then the folk people are going, what just happened, Joni? What happened to my singer-songwriter on the Dulcimer, And so she's, listening to Miles and, Wayne and Mingus. And so now she's getting very jazzy. And so a lot of, way outside the lines of a folk singer.
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Wow. Yeah, and you can tell, I like the oozing line, because that's what it feels like. It feels like she's just like, it's just like coming out of her, and you don't even know what it is. And she probably doesn't either.
She doesn't even need it now. Yeah. She'll just stack some fourths, and that's her chord.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, so she's going to be one of those types where she, like, not that she doesn't, but half the time she probably doesn't even know what that chord's called.
No.
She's just doing it.
No. Yeah.
Which tells you that there's a lot of theory that you don't have to know in order to be able to play awesome, right?
Yeah.
You can do a walk down or something, and you don't, that middle, that second chord, you don't have to know what that's called. It's an augmented, we don't know what that chord's called, but
I have many,
awesome,
as a composer myself, many times I'll have a chord that I've never seen before, never heard before, a voicing, but it only fits there. I doubt if I will put it anywhere else on any other tune. It just happens to show up right there. And I love that.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And you were in the parking lot, subterranean, by your own design. The virtue of your style inscribed on your contempt for mine. Jesus was a beggar, he was rich in grace, and Solomon kept his head in all his glory. It's just that some steps outside the boho dance have a fascination for me. A camera pans the cocktail hour behind a blind of potted palms, and finds a lady in a Paris dress with runs in her nylons.
So Jesus and cocktail hour in 3 lines.
Yeah.
Like
that Jesus was a beggar line, to me, that just grips you by the throat. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Wow. I couldn't figure out what that background is.
Flugelhorn.
Behind a blind of potted palms, and finds a lady in a Paris dress with runs in her nylon.
Yeah, they're recording that where it's like it feels way behind.
Way behind.
Yeah, like structurally in the room or something.
But it's a haunting melody. It's just like it keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a voice going, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It has a very rolly kind of a feeling over and over and going and going. Yeah.
Yeah. Great arrangement.
What is this part?
Yeah.
You read those books where luxury comes as a guest to take a slave. Books where artists in noble poverty go like virgins to the grave. Don't misfortune allowed. Like a priest with a pornographic watch, looking and longing on the sly. Sure, it's stricken from your uniform, but you can't get it out of your eyes. Nothing is capsulized in me on either side of town. The streets were never really mine, not mine, not mine.
I'm hearing a little bit of a hook. Da, da, da,
Yeah. Oh,
da,
sure.
da, da. So,
Yeah.
because I was thinking, like, we were speaking in the other video about zero cliches, and you don't really hear any of that out of her. I mean, hers is all over the place, and you're not going to hear. But that's a hook,
Well, I'd call it a leitmotif.
a leitmotif.
Wagner, darling.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
haunting. Chuck Finley on flugelhorn, that's as good as it gets.
You can hear that flugelhorn is not very bright, which
No.
I like, but you can hear it's like a trumpety kind of instrument, which is,
Yeah.
right in there. It doesn't sound like a French horn.
No.
It's got,
flugelhorn.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it has.
Flugel's like a trumpet except expanded, vertically.
Sure,
It's just a little
yeah.
bigger, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of got a French horn kind of quality to it. It's not as punchy as a trumpet, but you can tell that it's got a trumpety sound to it,
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe that, but
And maybe, Miles was in the back of her mind, just kind of Miles back there telling a story. Hard to say. Mm-hmm. She always said In a Silent Way was one of her secret favorite albums that she would never, you can't talk about that to the hippies. I like In a Silent Way by Miles. They may or may not like it. Now, some hippies do, but not always. And I'm
do you know what year this would have been?
I'm going to say 77.
Yeah, late
Yeah.
70s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally LA, just all these, very LA feel. Like,
Yeah.
probably that drawing is LA. And then her little house there, she has like the city, the suburbs, and then the African natives, you know what I mean? All mixed together.
You don't think that's Empire?
It might be.
But it would. But wouldn't they have two?
The point is city,
Yeah.
suburbs,
Yeah.
and then jungle,
Yeah.
all mixed together.
The hissing of summer lands.
Lawns.
Lawns. Yeah,
Meaning
lawns.
the sprinklers. It's just talking
Yeah,
about
well,
suburbia.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really what it's saying.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the music of the suburbs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So her fans, she kind of lost a lot of them with this album.
Interesting.
She did. Yeah, no doubt about it.
That was at the end already. Yeah, wow, that's a really interesting song. Yeah, that's always funny about when artists kind of do that. They have their thing, and then they have that kind of a mind where they're just spread, and they have so many different interests and influences and stuff. And what do you do when you want to go somewhere else and you think,
It's a problem.
41% of your fans are going to be like, what the fuck, like,
well, the label and those fans,
Yeah.
they want you to just put out 1,000,000 Joni's first albums.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just not how an artist. That's
Right.
not Joni at all. And Joni will walk away from the business before she'll do that.
Right.
She will.
Yeah.
And she has.
And then she did that huge one with Herbie here in the
Yeah.
last 20 years or whenever it was, that got a Grammy, and
Yeah.
that's like another. To me, that album sounded like her.
Mm-hmm.
It was you could hear how much influence she had on the album, but that's another thing that's probably way away from her folk roots or whatever.
Yeah, how she just kind of went to jazz. It was inevitable, and Graham Nash always said she always wanted to just be one of the boys, and so she'd front a band, all guys, and they'd tour.
Yeah.
First, it was the L.A. Express with Tom Scott and those guys, and then later, kind of Herbie, Wayne, kind of almost Weather Report for a while.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm sure the label pulled their hair out, because I'm sure the numbers went down. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know?
But she probably had one of those kinds of attitudes that could walk away.
Yeah.
And just said, go screw yourself, you
Yeah,
know.
I'll just paint. And she'll go paint.
Yeah.
She'll have an art show.
Yeah. I wonder what would happen if you had 50, because I'm sure there's maybe 200 big artists out there, you know, Beyonce, and you know, there's a whole bunch of them. I wonder what would happen if like 50 of them were more like her. Would they just barely get replaced, or could they kind of muscle a little bit? You know, I wonder what would happen if so many of them kind of took her route and was like, take it or leave it. And I wonder if they would bend a little bit and be like, well, you know, okay, fine, you know, a couple of things.
Two little stories by, you know, quickly. You know, I've seen Joni at awards ceremonies where she's doing the presenting. One time with Carlos Santana, but one time, I think maybe this all was the Santana. You know, first they said, and the winner goes to A Love Supreme, John Coltrane. It was a joke. Mm-hmm. They just said A Love Supreme, John Coltrane, and so they had a joke there. But then Joni later said when she was doing for a female winner, she goes, another piece of meat coming down the aisle for the record company to chew up. I mean, she didn't say that literally, but that's kind of what she meant. You know, she
brutal.
Like, these female artists just come in, couple hits, and we're done. Next. And so she's well aware of how that happens, and she didn't, you know, she kind of didn't have that happen to her. She had a tough manager, and he fought for her, and you know, she's one of a kind, and you know, I wish I had a nickel for every female singer who just worships Joni and just says, "Oh, she was such an influence." Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, such an artist, not just a diva. You know, a true artist all the way around. Intellectual, you know, well-read, you know, just, you know, critique of culture.
True artist.
True artist, not just looking for a hit.
Yeah.
She's not just looking to write a hit.
Yeah. That's really cool. I'm sure there's been a ton of those, but they never... Yeah. Either they had so much stuff going on in their own lives that they couldn't get anywhere, or a bunch of people made sure they didn't get anywhere by not tearing them down, but not giving them opportunities because they wouldn't play ball and all this stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's the numbers, and it's a business.
Yeah.
You know, and Joni, you know, had her ups and downs. She was away for a while, but she was at Newport last year singing from a easy chair. Yeah. She's 75.
Yeah, wow.
So after 20 years of no gig, she played Newport this year. Wow. So she is a great songwriter. Great.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's some Joni Mitchell for you. Go check her out. And don't forget, if you like what you see, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps with the algorithm. And so we'll be back with some more. And see you guys later.